urgently. And the iconic words of Ba El Hateva, the words of Torah and Tefillah. We really, really need this in this current flood that we're experiencing. We're learning this morning, most obviously first, for the swift return of all of the hostages, healthy both in body and in spirit and in mind, and for refuah shlema for all those who have been wounded, and that Hashem should protect every soldier of the IDF and every citizen of Eretz Yisrael and every citizen of the world. Also, as we are learning this morning, a mother of 9 children, Miriam Bas Anita, is undergoing a bone marrow transplant, and we're asking Hashem for Rachmei Shemaya that it should be successful and that she should be able to return to her children to mother them, Mitzvah Hashem, and all good things. We're also asking for a refuah shlema for Harav Yosef Yitzchak ben Sima Chasya. She should have a refuah shlema kreva nisi. And we are learning in honor and Le'ilu Nishmas Reb Shalom ben Elio Halevi, whose second yahrzeit was this Shabbos, and he is the father of our beloved classmate Fega Rachel Galam. And it feels like yesterday when she spoke about him last year at the conclusion of saying Kaddish for him. Says Neshama should have an aliyah, and he should continue to have great nachas from his family, and they should be reunited with him, and we should be reunited with all of our loved ones immediately. We're learning the Sikha on Vayera from Chelek Chaf. Seif Aleph. Kfar Supar Kama Pa'amim. It's been told many times, Hamaisa She'ira B'chayk Adma Maharshab Nishmasa Eden. A story that occurred with Eber Ashab, B'Yosef ben Daled Oyhei Shanim, B'Shabbos Parshas Vayera. He was 4 or 5 years old, and it was the Parshas Vayera. Admar Nishmasa Eden Nichnas al Ziknei Chayk Admar Chatemach Tzedek Lekabel Es Berchasu L'Yom Huladetay. So the Eber Ashab went into his grandfather's room, his grandfather the Tzemach Tzedek, because he wanted to get a bracha on the occasion of his birthday. V'hityapech bebechi, and he burst out in tears and crying. Ba'amrei, and he said, "B'pnei ma la'Avram Avinu niskala Kadosh Baruch Hu v'ilu aleinu elav eina nireh." Why did Hashem appear to Avram Avinu, and to me, to us, he doesn't appear? And he was crying. And we all know what it looks like when a child cries, when he wants something. And his grandfather, Tzemach Tzedek, explained to him, and he answered him, Yehudi tzaddik. When a Jew that's a tzaddik, B'Yosef ben tzaddik teshonim, and he's 99 years old, Machlit she'olav limalas atzma, he decides that he has to be circumcised, Ra'oihu she'Hashem yira elav. So then he is deserving that Hashem should appear to him. Now in Sif Beis, the Rebbe taught us this many, many times, that Sipurei Rabbeinu Nesienu Bichlal, that the stories about our Rabbeim in general, Ubefrat Elu Shehem Atzmam Gilu Lanu, Al Menas Lefarsam, and especially those stories that they themselves revealed, because of course there are so many things that we don't know about them, and there's so many things that they did not share, and there are so many things that they did not reveal. Like somebody very smart said, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was the biggest tzaddik nister, because nobody knows really anything about the Rebbe. Anything we know is nothing. So if a Rebbe revealed something about himself, Vaday miduyakim heim b'chol pratehem, then the story is exact and punctilious in all of the details, and therefore there's much that we can glean from this. Afilu hasipurim she'iru b'kat nusam, and even the stories that happened to them in their youth, when they were very young. Hine mezed gufa shabeseinu nisienu masu lanu sipurim elu. But in light of the fact that our Rabbeim imparted these stories to us, ubifrat al pi maimer Chazal, and especially in light of what the Chazal teach, butzin mikatve yediyah. So I looked this up and I found two different definitions. In one place it says a pumpkin, and in another place it said a cucumber can be recognized from its initial blossoming. And it's an aphorism, it's an expression that means that a great person, you could tell even from when they're very young who they're going to be. So in light of the fact that the Rabbeim told us these stories, and in light of the fact that we have this general understanding that greatness can be discerned even at a very young age, move on is understood. So we understand that this is not just a case of that we can learn something in our service of God, like the Baal Shem Tov taught us, that we have to learn a lesson from everything we see, but rather, but rather that these stories that have been imparted to us and have been told to us, they include very specific content from which we have to learn and understand instruction for our lives. And in the story that we're talking about now, it's not quite understood. It says, Vayera Hashem al Avram. But the thing is that this idea, this fact, Vayera Hashem al Avram, that Hashem appeared to Avram, nemar kvar le'il ba'af beis pa'amim be'parshas Lech Lecha. In Parshas Vayera, this is not the first time that Hashem appears to Avram. In fact, in Parshas Lech Lecha, we have exactly this verbiage twice. Umadua b'chias admar nishmos eitin al zeh shakadosh baruch hu nir la'Avram ve'leinu elav ena nira ha'isa b'kesher lepasuk b'Parshas Vayera v'loi de Parshas Lech Lecha. So if you're dealing with a child who is so disturbed that he is full throttle crying that Hashem doesn't appear to him, so why didn't he come with this complaint when he learned Parshas Lech Lecha, where it says twice that Hashem appeared to Avram? So why wasn't he upset then? Why wasn't he jealous then? Why wasn't he emoting then about what he feels as an injustice? Now, Lagabi Vayera Hashem al Avram habez beParshas Lech Lecha. In the second instance, in Parshas Lech Lecha, when it says Hashem appeared to Avram, Efshar Loimar, we could say possibly Sha'admar Nishmas Eidin Adayin Lo Lamad, or Lamad Pasuk Zeh. Maybe we could say that since he was 4 or 5 years old, he didn't yet learn that second instance when Hashem appeared to Avram in Parshas Lech Lecha. Why? Because that is found almost at the end of the parsha, and Keseder Halimud Maktadim Hanog Bekama Mekayim Shaloimtim Imam B'chol Shavua Rak Chelek BeParshas HaShavua, and in consonance with the basic protocol that with young children you don't necessarily get to learn the whole parsha, so you learn the beginning of the parsha. So maybe we could answer that regarding the second instance of Hashem appearing to Avraham in Parshas Lech Lecha, this little child of 4 or 5 was not aware. But what about the first time? Shenemar b'tchilas haparsha, right before Lech Lecha. Vaday kvar lomadas, u'mipnei ma lo ba b'chiyasei b'kesher lepasuk zeh. So surely he learned the first instance of Vayera Hashem al Avram that he should Lech Lecha, that he should go. So why did this not precipitate an outburst? Why did he not come to cry to his grandfather? Why did Hashem appear to Avram and not to me? Gimel. B'pashtus yesh leimar tam. Simply speaking, we might say that the reason is kishanichnas admar nishmas eden l'tzemach tzedek l'kabel b'chasei b'kesher l'yemeledes ha'holedes, because we could answer that there was an occasion here. He went into his grandfather because of his birthday. He went to ask for a bracha for his birthday. Hayazeh b'Shabbos Parshas Vayera, and it fell out in conjunction with Parshas Vayera, v'lachein, and therefore Sha'al ala inyan shalamad uz. So that's why that was on his mind, because he had just learned Vayera Elav Hashem, shenemar Parshas Vayera. Masha Enkim b'Shavua Parshas Lech Lecha le'haisa siba likonis l'tzamach tzedek. But earlier in Parshas Lech Lecha, he didn't have a reason. So presumably, he didn't run into his father's yechidus room to his study all the time. And but happened to be that for his birthday, he went in formally to ask for a bracha. And this was on his mind because it was Parshas Vayera. And so he burst out in crying. Amnam adayin kasher. The Rebbe says, this is difficult. Basically, the Rebbe says, I can't embrace that is simply the reason. Madua heishiv lo yatzabach tzedek rak al Vayera lav Hashem de Parshas Vayera. Because if that would be the reason, then surely the Tzemach Tzedek would reply to him in more global fashion rather than replying to him about what happens in Parshas Vayera. And the Tzemach Tzedek did not bring it to the Rebbe Rashab's attention that this had happened already. It happened twice before. In other words, his answer was very, very specific, very pointed, very precise about what happens in Parshas Vayera. And even more difficult, the Tzemach Tzedek replied to his grandson that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to Avram because Avram decided to circumcise himself. So in fact, this answer, miyashevet rak et hapasuk Vayera lav Hashem shebeparshasenu, it speaks only to this instance. It only reconciles why Hashem appears to Avram here. Because it came after Avram Avinu's decision to circumcise himself. But the question really of the Rashab remains in place. But so then the question is, so why did Hashem appear to Avram in Parshas Lech Lecha before he had decided to be circumcised? In other words, according to the Tzemach Tzedek, it has to do with the fact that a 99-year-old man decides to be circumcised. So then this opens up a question on Parshas Lech Lecha. So then why did Hashem appear to him twice there? Dalet. L'ch'ayra, seemingly, we might say that the following is explanation for why Hashem appeared to Avram in Lech Lecha. Beis ha'pa'amim devayera b'parshas Lech Lecha hayu hakdama v'hachana la'amira vayera Hashem gomer vayomer gomer. That the two times that the Torah says Hashem appeared to Avram, those appearances are as a preface and a preparation for what Hashem is going to say in the next pasuk. Vayomer Hashem lech lecha me'artzecha me'moladecha me'beis avicha. And therefore, ein kol makom levayera la'adam shelo yelav ha'isa amira. So therefore, there's no reason for anybody to cry, why didn't Hashem appear to me, if Hashem did not come to give them certain instruction? Because the appearance in the two cases in Lech Lecha are a preface and a preparation and a segue into what Hashem is going to say. So it's very specific. So the Rashab wouldn't be crying about that because Hashem didn't come to tell him anything. And therefore his grandfather doesn't have to explain that because it's not relevant. There's no parallel. Masha Enke, but a contradistinction by Parsha Seinu in our Parsha, ain't kol amira levayera. But in our Parsha, there is no specific broadcast. There is no specific instruction after the word Vayera. Ela Vayera Hashem inyan b'fnei atzmai. But rather Hashem appears to Avram. It's in and of itself. This is what happens. V'lachein b'cha chayk admar nishmas eidin dafka b'kesher levayera zeh. That's why the Rashab cried about this instance of Hashem appearing to Avram and not the previous ones. However, ze einoi, but this is not the explanation. Shaharei, why? So I'm going to do the last paragraph in this seif and then go back to the brackets. Gam Vayera shem parshasenu haisa siba umatara miyuchedes. But in this week's parsha, in fact, there was a specific reason, there was a specific goal in Hashem appearing to Avram, Kipirish Rashi Pshuta Shel Mikra, like Rashi tells us, and Rashi is Pshuta Shel Mikra, Levaker Es HaChoila. In this week's parsha, when it says Vayera Hashem El Avram, Hashem appears in order to visit the sick. V'ilu Eitzalat Marnish Maseidin Lo Heisa Sibazu. And Deborah Rashab was not sick. So why is he crying? And if Hashem came to visit Avram because he was sick, why doesn't the Tzemach Tzedek explain this to Deborah Rashab? He doesn't relate to this. Let's go to the brackets. Afilu im hayisgalus de Vayera haysalitzerech amira. And even if Vayera would have been, because Hashem wants to say something to Avram, Hare batzinu bekama mekayma shenemar vayomer Hashem el goymer leloy hakdamas Vayera Hashem. There are plenty of times in the Torah where it says Hashem said something to so and so without prefacing that Hashem appeared. Umashma mizeh. So it's understood from this shegam kan Vayera hu inyan la'atzmai v'loy rak hakdama la'amira. That here too, when the Torah says Vayera Hashem, before it says Vayera Hashem, there's something specific that's going on. V'hadra kushya leduchta. And so then our question returns. Our question is right back to where it was. Because we have no way to explain it away. And yet we see that the Tzemach Tzedek doesn't relate to this. And speak specifically about the fact that Avram was ready to circumcise himself at 99 years old, and that's why Hashem appeared to him. Hey, the Baal Haturim is. Go ahead, Chani. Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was a mistake. Just listening.
Okay, I thought maybe you want to ask a question. Okay. The Baal HaTurim Isa, and the Baal HaTurim taught, Shevayere Lav Hashem b'Parshasenu, Haya b'Shvil Hamila, b'Schus Shekiem Avram Avinu Mitzvahs Mila. Baal HaTurim says that Hashem appeared to Avram in this Parsha because of the circumcision, in the Schus, in the merit of Avram Avinu observing this mitzvah, Hashem appeared to him. Al pizeh, so based on this explanation, seemingly we might be able to then reconcile this situation. That in fact, this is what the Rashab was crying about. This was his claim. He too is circumcised. So he too should merit that Hashem should come to him. So the Tzemach Tzedek explains to his grandson, you can't compare yourself to Avram. Because when it came to Avram's circumcision, there was something that was spectacularly distinctive. Shemol Atzmai be Yosef ben Tzaddik Teshanim. He circumcised himself at 99. V'lachein zachahu dafka levayera. And therefore, dafka, he merits that Hashem should appear to him. But the Rebbe says, however, you'd be very hard pressed to say this. This is not really a good answer. Why? Shaharei Aleph. Rashi Pirish Kanal Shevayera Lav Hashem Lo Yayaschar Ba'alma B'Shvil Hamila Ela Levakar Zachayla. First of all, you have Rashi, Pshuta Shel Mikra, saying that Vayera Hashem Elav, he came to be Mevaker Chelek, came to visit the sick. Not because of the circumcision. Uperish Rashi Elatayr, who gam leben chamesh lemikra. And as we know, the Rebbe reminds us all the time that Rashi's commentary in the Torah is addressed to the ben chamesh lemikra also. Umistaber, so it's logical. Sheshe'elas chayk adman shmasedi b'yose nar ben dalad hei shonim yesh lamakam lefi perish Rashi elapasuk. So certainly, Deber Rashab was the ben chamesh lemikra that could understand Rashi. And he knows Rashi, so it must be that his question actually emerges from the Rashi. And so we have to understand really what is his question. And even if you want to go not according to Rashi, you want to go just according to the Balaturim, once you remind yourself that we're talking about Deber Rashab, we have to remember that even when he was very young, it was already discernible just how great he was going to be. And as I have already earlier cited the Gemara, that small cucumbers or pumpkins, you can see even when they're just blooming, blossoming, if they're going to be healthy, if they're going to be beautiful or not. Vada yada is goydel malas avodas Avram Avinu b'chlal. So you're going to say that Deber Rashab didn't understand that he's different than Avram Avinu? Really? He doesn't understand that? Think about how smart our 5-year-old children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, kids we know are. They know that they're not like Avram Avinu. And certainly he could understand that there's a difference between his having been circumcised and Avram Avinu choosing to do this at 99 years old. And therefore, so we have to disabuse ourselves of thinking that the Deber Rashab, even when he was a tiny tot, would have thought to compare himself to Avraham Avinu. So much so that he's going to come and he's going to cry to his grandfather and he's going to submit a claim, a grievance. Doesn't make any sense. That he should come with a grievance. Why did Hashem appear to Avram and not to me? It's impossible to say that the Rebbe Nishmas Eden did not understand this. This can't be what it is. Vav. V'yesh loimer habir bazeh. And so we might say, the Rebbe prefaces his Chiddush always by saying, we might say, the Adrabah, on the contrary, Tainus Adma Nishmas Eden Hanal, Achim Ba Mipnei Sheyada as Divrei Rashi Shebayeri Lav Hashem Hayilavakas Achela. In fact, the Rebbe Rashab's question, his complaint, his grievance, his outburst, actually emerges from what Rashi teaches. Lule perish Rashi loy haisa loy kol taina. If not for what Rashi says here, he would have no claim, no grievance, no complaints at all. He wouldn't have asked, Madua Inakash Baruch Hu Nirei Love Kamei Love Avram Avinu. He would never have asked, why doesn't Hashem appear to him as Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu? Sharei Ein Mokim Klal Shei Yishva Atzmel Avram Avinu. He's intelligent enough to know that there's no way, Jose, that he could be compared to Avram Avinu. Aval me'achar shevayere love Hashem hayilevakes achayla. So this is really something. But after he read Rashi, and Rashi says that Hashem came to visit Avram Avinu, which is an inyan shel gamilas chasadim. Visiting the sick is a subsidiary of the overall mitzvah of comporting oneself with kindness towards other people. Hainu shevayera Hashem loy kol kach mitzad malas madregas Avram Avinu, ela mitzad chazdei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That Hashem appearing here to Avram Avinu is not because Avram Avinu was so great, but because Hashem's chesed is so profound. Al Kain Ta'an. So once he understands this, he has a grievance. Kevan shenagei Eloi, Masha Ena Kadosh Baruch Hu Nirei Elav Kafi Shaya Nikar Achar Kach Bekach Shadibra Zeh Heviu L'Dei B'Chia. It was so bothersome to him that Hashem didn't appear to him. So bothersome that he actually burst out in tears. Lachein ala Kadosh Baruch Hu ligmoil chesed gam imoy laharis atzma gam elav. He is so bothered. He is so upset that Hashem doesn't appear to him. So surely Hashem, who has such great chesed, would appear to him, because Hashem knows what's in his heart, and Hashem knows how much he wants to see him. So if Hashem could come visit Avram, why can't Hashem come visit him? Not mitzad that he deserves it. Mitzad Hashem's chasadim, seeing how much he wants it. In the brackets, ulefi zeh miyushav b'pashtos, and now it's readily explained. It's reconciled. Why he didn't have the same complaint? Why he didn't come cry to his grandfather earlier about Parshas Lech Lecha? Because in those instances, Haya Vayera Kashur Lema'alasa Shel Avram Avinu, because there Hashem appearing to Avram was connected and was a response to Avram Avinu's stellar qualities. V'efshar lidamis Avram Avinu, and the Rebbe Rashab at a very young age already understood he cannot be compared to Avram Avinu. But here, when he reads that Rashi says that Hashem came to be mevaker chaylim, okay, so if Hashem is doing gemilas chasadim, hello, what about me? So now his grandfather Tzemach Tzedek explains to him. When a Jew at 99 years of age decides that he has to be circumcised, then he becomes worthy of Hashem appearing to him. It's true that Hashem appearing to him was not because of Avram Avinu's elevated stature, but rather because Hashem came to be Mevaker Chelim. It's a subsidiary of Gemilas Chasadim. However, but you still have to be worthy of Hashem appearing. You still have to be a receptacle. Sorry, not gilui, gilui. You have to be a receptacle for this type of revelation. And so, what is the receptacle? What is the proper receptacle for Hashem appearing to you? The determination and the resolution that in whatever situation one finds oneself in, even when you're a tzaddik at 99 years of age, meaning surely you have accomplished great things, surely you are already consummate in so many areas, all love li meilas atzmai. But you still understand and you still feel with every fiber of your being that you need to be circumcised. And in footnote 20, it says, Re'eh Lekutei Sichas Chelek Aleph Amud 25. So I'm going to read just a short portion of that Sicha, which I was not able to find in the Hebrew. So this is for those who want to learn the Sicha in Yiddish. Here is a morsel, and I will translate in English, of course. So this is a Sicha also on Parshat Vayera. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, so the Rebbe says in Seif Hey, it's Likutei Sichos Aleph Vayera, that Hashem earlier, the Rebbe says that Hashem had already appeared to Avraham Avinu in earlier times, but there was something distinctive and different here. From the Tzemach Tzedek Enfer, from the Tzemach Tzedek reply to the Rebbe Rashab, as die Hisgalus an Pleckung zu Avramin is given der Farbe, was had gewusst, as darf sich mal sein. What the Tzemach Tzedek was teaching his grandson was that this revelation came and was precipitated by Avraham Avinu's knowledge that he has to circumcise himself. Kemen sich uplernen, so we all have to learn. As emes take, jede Eid can manin as the Eibusher soll sich zu improvisen. Yes, every Jew can lodge a complaint and say, Hashem, I want you to appear to me. Es fordert sich aber hakdama, but you have to do something as a preparation. Es soll wissen, as man darf sich mal sein. The Jew has to know that she has to be circumcised, as nit gucken dik auf die alle Meiles, was hat bepeil, oder lechale pachas bekoyach, von deswegen darf wissen, as darf sich mal sein. Irrespective of all the great things that this person might have already accomplished and all the things that they certainly have in potentia, but they need to be circumcised. And here, of course, we're not talking about literal circumcision. We're talking about the metaphoric circumcision, like when the Torah says, Umal Hashem es levavchem, that Hashem is going to circumcise your heart, because circumcision is about tearing away or removing an impediment, an obstruction, something, a blockage in our avodas Hashem. So the big thing here is that what the Tzemach Tzedek is teaching his grandson and us is that there's a constant need to be circumcising ourselves, to be elevating ourselves, to bettering ourselves, to doing more. There's no such thing as resting on laurels. And that is the precursor, and that is the proper vessel and the conduit for Hashem appearing. Zion. But the Rebbe says, yesh lishol ala bi'arnal. Okay, so the Rebbe presents an explanation, and then he pushes back against the explanation. He says, seemingly, we could ask on this. At the end of the day, visiting somebody who is sick is not pedestrian gemilas chasadim. Ella, yesh by toichin miyuchad, shehu kashur l'chayla dafka. But there is something about Bikur Chaylim that has a particular essence and content that is connected to somebody who is ill. Why? Because we're taught that Hamivaker mekel bibikure al yisoide hachayla v'zeh gufa moyel lirfuasai. That when somebody comes to visit the sick, it ameliorates through the visit. It weakens the basis of the sickness, of the illness, and it actually is efficacious towards their healing. Ubifrat al pi amuva b'gemara, and especially based on what the Gemara says, shenoitel echad b'shishim mehachayla, that visiting the sick takes away 1/60 of the illness. V'chein hu afilu b'bikar shel ben adam. This is true when a person visits somebody else. Bal achas kama v'kama, how much more so? Shebikar chaylim al yidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu moyel b'vadai l'refuas hachayla. When Hashem comes to visit the sick, for sure, it takes away the illness. U'memela ayla hash'ela. So now we have a new question. Keitzad limed admar nishmas edim min Vayera lav Hashem levaker zachayla shakadosh Baruch Hu misgala gam avor inyan acher shel gemilas chasadim. How did the Rebbe Nishmas Edim, the Rashab, learn from the words Vayera lav Hashem? And Rashi says that it was levaker chayla that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself for something else, meaning gemilas chasadim. In other words, he knows he's not sick. So why is he crying that Hashem should come to him? If Rashi is saying that Hashem came to visit Avram for the inyan of Bikar Chaylim, so what's the taina of the Brasha? What kind of taina does he have? He's not sick. Why does he talk about a global Gemilas Chasadim? So why is he relating to this as more globally an Indian of Gemilas Chasadim? And he's saying, me too. I want Hashem to appear to me too. But he's not sick. The Yuvan Zen will understand this. Bahaktim, Hayalpusa, the Gemara, we will preface with a teaching in the Gemara. Vayera love Hashem, from the words Vayera love Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch, the Gemara says, and this is in Saita, that from the words Vayera love Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bikar Chaylim, Ata Baker Chaylim. The Gemara says, Hashem went to visit a sick person, you too should visit sick people. Shegam zeh tzarech bir al derech kush yahanal. So this too necessitates understanding based on the difficulty we're having above. Why? Because the Gemara explains Shabikar Chaylim Noitel Ulo Mechalya, right? The Gemara explains that when you visit somebody, it takes away 1/60 of their illness. Dafka k'shem mevaker hu ben giloi shel hachayla. But the Gemara gives a caveat. It's when the person that's visiting is the same age or the same stature as the person they are visiting. Ba'al pizeh. So based on this, the caveat that the Gemara set forth, how could we learn from this that people should go visit other people? I mean, it's clear that when Hashem visits somebody, Hashem is not the same age or the same stature as who Hashem went to visit. So how does the Gemara expound from this that we all have to go visit people? How is this hayra l'chol adam Yisrael sherubam einam bnei gilai baker chaylim? How could this even be a lesson, given the caveat that the Gemara put into place? B'yesh leimar, and we might say sherashi b'peirushay halatayra ramas kan lebir alzeh, that in this commentary of Rashi that we're looking at now, Rashi alludes to an explanation. B'masha kasa, because what did Rashi write? Levaker es hachayla, to visit the sick. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, Yom Shlishi lemilasei haya, uba Kadosh Baruch Hu v'sha'al b'shleimai. It was the third day after the circumcision. Hashem came to see how Avram is doing. Dilachayra, seemingly, Eina muvenis arichas lashon Rashi. Rashi's elongated commentary here, we don't see a reason for this. Rashi already told us the content. Hashem came to visit the sick. And we know how parsimonious Rashi is with every word. So why does Rashi come to say, oh, Hashem came to see how he was doing? We get it. You come to visit the sick, you come to see how they're doing. But it's dafka through these words that seem at first glance extraneous that Rashi teaches us. It was not for the purpose of mitigating the illness, but only to ask, how are you doing? So if it's only to ask, how are you doing, then everybody can learn from this, because anybody could go to anybody, even if they're much younger, even if they can't be compared to who it is they're visiting, to ask, how are you doing? Ches. Vayera love Hashem, Nemar b'kasav. So after Hashem appears to him, the Torah tells us, Shavram ra shloisha anashim nitzavim alav, that Avram Avinu saw 3 people standing upon him. Because of Rashi, she'echad mehem ba l'rafais as Avram. And Rashi explains that each one of the malachim, that they were indeed malachim, and that each one came for a different purpose. One of them came to heal Avram. And since whether if Hashem would appear to him or Hashem wouldn't appear to him, he would have been completely healed by Malach Raphael by this visit. And this would happen as soon as he came. So that completely takes away any reason for Hashem to come a minute before Malach Raphael is going to come and completely heal Avram for the purpose of taking away 1/60th of the illness. And so Rashi is very, very specific. It's a diuk. And Rashi says, Hashem didn't come levaker chayla like you might think in pedestrian form. No. Hashem came to see, how are you doing? Hainu, meaning, Shahamatara b'pikor chayim shel Kadosh Baruch Hu is a loy l'rafos al kol panim echad mishishim. Hashem visiting Avram in that visit of Bikor Chaylim was not for the purpose of healing him, even 1/60th thereof. Ela inish el gemilas chasadim bilvad. It was simply kindness. And therefore, the Gemara could learn out from this that every Jew has to go visit every other person. And since Hashem came to be Mevakar Chelim Avram, he came as a form of Gemilas Chasadim, and not to take away from the illness. Now we understand why the Bereshab was so exercised. If Hashem is visiting people simply out of kindness, why is he being skipped over? Why is Hashem not coming to him? Hashem surely knows how much he wants to see him. Tess. One of the instructions, one of the lessons that we have to learn from this story, the Rebbe says, I've already explained this in another place at great length. Because this story happened to Bereshab when he was 4 or 5 years old, he was less than 6 years old. This is a lesson. Sha'afilu etzel katan ben dalid oihei shonim efshar la'orer al yidei chinuch k'diboi shuka l'ruchnias ula elakus ad l'tshuka nifla'a sheme'oreres b'chia. That it's possible to arouse very young children through giving them the right chinuch. You're able to arouse an overwhelming desire, a yen, for spirituality, for godliness. Such a deep desire, such a wondrous desire, that it causes them to cry. The Ein Zeh Soiser Lohiras Harambam, and this does not in any way repudiate what the Rambam taught, b'negei la'ofen halimud makatan, where the Rambam sets out how you should teach young children. Shetzarich lezarza b'dvarim shehem ahuvim etzloi lekatnus shanav. That the way to motivate children is through things that a young child likes. Kra v'tein lecha egoizim kulu. Tell the child, you read, you practice, and I'm going to give you nuts, the Rambam says. So the Rebbe says it's not a stira. Kevan shehamura hanal ubefrat la'achar shechik meiri chami admor firsim hagavar. But in light of this story, and especially in light of the fact that my father-in-law popularized the story, Gila derech zu bechinuch. Through telling this story, he revealed a modality in chinuch, dahainu, meaning b'lashon hachasidus, in the terminology that we use in Chasidus, shepasach tzinor chadash, psichas hatzinor, the opening of a new pipeline. By telling this story, the Rabbeim opened up a new modality, a new paradigm. Shetia hayecheles lachanech katan ad laofen shinyane elukus yudvarm shehem ahuvim etzloi chelek mikatnus shanav. That you're able to actually educate children in such a way that instead of nuts, godly things should be the things that they love, even when they are so young. And I am guessing that everybody here can think of examples of this. I could tell you that I've seen awe-inspiring, mind-boggling examples of this. Children expressing themselves and understanding deep in Yanim that I do not believe we were taught at that age. Children are being taught deep, basic in Yanim and Chassidus at very, very young ages, and it is arousing and eliciting a whole different level of devotion and alignment and desire. And there are hundreds of stories of children that go to the Eil and they say, but I want to see the Rebbe. And other stories like this. And the Rebbe says that actually we see in halacha even records that there are things that are different because the nature of people are different today, because of environmental factors, maybe because of dietary factors, and both literally and allegorically, it impacts us. And there are differences. We know as women, there are many differences in Hilchot Nida based on Nishtamnu Hativim. And this is a positive change. Yud. Amnam tzarech bir, but we still need explanation. Mipnei ma nifal inyan zeh b'daris hachrenim dafka va'al yedei mu'ura she'ira ba'admar nishmas ha'eden. But why did this happen dafka in the last couple of generations, and through something that happened with a Rashab? V'yuvan zeh b'hakdim bir hadavar shegili primis haTorah hitchil dafka b'daris hachrenim. And we'll understand this through reminding ourselves, through prefacing, that the revelation of Pnimius HaTorah began, in fact, dafka in the last few generations, al yedei ha'arizal, first with the Arizal, ba'achar kach al yedei ha'Baal Shem Tov, ad la'ofen dahasaga v'havana al yedei Teres Chasidus Chabad. So the Arizal brought these ideas from heaven into the universe. The Baal Shem Tov took these and distilled them in a way that could speak to our emotions. And the Alter Rebbe took this Torah and systemized it in a way that we could understand it cognitively. Delachera, ach shadara, bitmia. Seemingly, this generation, really? Like bitmia means with like a big doubt, like we should be deserving of this, like this should happen now. It's well known, one of the ways of answering that question. On the contrary, because with the elapsing of time, the darkness becomes thicker. It is necessary to have additional holy illumination, holy light. And so it is with what we're discussing here. Mitzad his gabrus hachoshech shebedoros achronim, because of the way that the darkness is asserting itself and becoming stronger in the last few generations. Nitan dafka achshav hakoyach lechanech tanim batzir mibarshes. Therefore, we would dafka now given the strength to be able to be mechanech children even younger than 6 years old. Sheruchnius ve'elakus yuchelek michayehem. That spirituality, that godliness should be part and parcel of their life, as real and as important to them and as exciting as nuts and candy. And this is why the psichas hatzinor for this, the opening up of the pipeline of being able to be mechanech children in this way, happened dafka through Deber Rashab. Because what do we know about the Deber Rashab? Mein yonav hamiyuchadim shel adma nishmas eden haya yisoid yeshivas temchei tamimim. One of the things that Deber Rashab is known for, one of the distinctive things that Deber Rashab did, was he opened up temchei tamimim. Sheba yilmedu nigla de Torah yachad in pnimius haTorah kitera achas. And temchei tamimim was the first institution where nigla and chasidus were learned together in one whole. And as a preface to this, it was necessary to open up this pipeline, this modality, this paradigm, this very new, novel paradigm of how you're machanech children. That even when the child is small, they're 4 or 5 years old, it will be possible to arouse within them an awesome, wondrous desire. The child should have this tremendous desire that Hashem should appear to him. And if you look into the Gemara Shabbos, the Tinoika shall beis Rabban, the innocent children are called Mishichai, my anointed ones. And so this kind of comportment on the part of children, hi ha'achana ha'kreva lebias v'gilui hamashiach, this is the preparation for bringing closer the coming and the revelation of Mashiach. She'az yikuyim Vayera Hashem, and then we'll finally have the fulfillment of Hashem appeared, as it says in Yeshayahu v'nigla k'ved Hashem, the honor of Hashem will be revealed. V'ro'u chol basar yachdav k'pi Hashem diber, and all of humanity together will see that Hashem is speaking, and this will happen. This is not going to happen in some spiritual realm. It's going to happen down here in this physical material realm, and should happen bikar of mamash. It should happen immediately. Kasher asimar da malka mashiach, like the man Mashiach said, "Ei Masai, when kasimar, when Mister will you appear? This should happen immediately." Now. So that is our sicha for today. And I don't know, I was so moved by this. Even though I could see, just like for my grandchildren, how they're being taught things I know I was not taught in kindergarten, in first grade, and in elementary school, and even in high school. Goldie, when did we have our first Tanya class? In 9th or 10th grade? But
Yeah, but Rivky, hi.
hi.
Okay, I mean, the Rebbe was physically with us, and we thought it was never going to end. I mean, I remember going to what was it? Slichas. It was, I think, it was Seminary Aleph. So I went to Slichas in 770, and I was probably one of the only girls there. Imagine the Rebbe's in Shul, and who's there?
No, I know that's all true as unter and lumpus finster, and we took for granted. Oh, that's all
We took it for granted.
But this Indian of teaching children Hasidus has accelerated in the last. It's unbelievable, and the children understand when you speak to them. You could see that they understand.
I think though that it's a whole discussion, and I have opinion about that because it should I don't think certain things should be taught to kids, the answers before they have the questions. In other words, little kids see this and they should live it. It's not so much teaching, it's living it. But when it comes to a certain age, I had a conversation with a niece this Friday night that she didn't understand the whole thing about that the difference between Yishmael and Yitzchak, the 13-year-old, being having a choice and having a bris milah, etc. She's a 9th grader, a shlucha, living here in New York. I'm saying here because I came for Simcha, Baruch Hashem. But she was upset about it because she didn't understand the chassidus that was taught. In other words, to make sure these kids have the right questions. A person that's a Baal
They're
Tshuva,
not about the basis. They're not talking the simple stuff.